Hello, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jonathan Cohn, and today I will be discussing one of my favorite books of all time from one of my favorite series of all time, and that is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. Now, this is a very, very popular book to discuss on YouTube, and this is a very popular series to discuss on YouTube, and it's only going to get more popular with the new TV series. And so, as a result, I will talk about it a little bit. I plan to review and reread the whole series. I'd read it once from 2018. It was, I believe, March of 2018 through August of 2019 that I worked on reading the series. I didn't read it all at once or all together. I read a book and then would go read 3 or 4 other books and then come back and read a book and things like that. And I highly enjoyed the series the first time, and I decided to do a reread of the series in anticipation of the new Wheel of Time TV show that's coming out in November. And so I have my first book to discuss is The Eye of the World by Robert Jordan. And to begin with, I'll do spoiler-free, and then I'll move into the spoiler section. And I will give you ample warning so that you know not to keep watching the video if you don't want spoilers. But let's start out spoiler-free. This book is very much an introductory book and very much a Tolkien-related book. There are so many Lord of the Rings tropes and references and just classic fantasy things happening in this book. I think that Jordan realized that the fan base was not prepared for what he would do in the later books in the series, and so he basically eased them into it. The first half of the book, basically a redo of the Fellowship of the Ring. Second half of the book starts to go off and do its own thing, and as a result you have this series, this book that slowly builds, and you realize, oh, this is a big deal. And there's a big action plot at the end, and that's not even a high point of the whole series. And so this is a very interesting book to discuss. Some of the great things about this book are the characters. There are a ton of characters, and they all have unique voices. They all have unique tastes, and as the series develops, as well as specifically in this book, you start to see them change. And some other great things about the book include its plot. It is very long, but there are some great points. The Trolloc attack that's very early on in the book is simply a delight to read. And discussing how the village is in the first portion of the book is a delight to read. As they go along and visit all of the little towns and the big cities, and they start realizing a larger world, it's just delightful to see everything from a new person's perspective. One of the great things about storytelling is when you have a character who's unfamiliar with the world, learning about the world, it serves as a way for the audience to learn with the character. Case in point, in Harry Potter's never been in the magical wizarding world, and so you, the audience, are learning about it with him. Just like Luke Skywalker, he's never left his home on Tatooine, and yet he gets to see what space looks like and what the universe looks like. This series and this book very much follow that. Your main character, Rand, very much has that type of a wide-eyed and dewy, ooh, this is so interesting. And so I think that this serves as an excellent beginning, and it serves as an excellent way to immerse the reader into the story itself. Now, I unfortunately can't do too much more without talking about spoilers. I will just say at the beginning, obviously, I loved this book. I think it's a fantastic book. I personally give it a very high rating, and I will give the actual rating at the end of the video. But note, if you're just watching the spoiler-free section, I loved this book. Now, for the spoiler section of the book. Obviously, getting into that Trolloc attack, you see Rand get to wield the sword that his father has is an excellent moment in the book. It feels very triumphant. It feels very classic fantasy victorious. I'm going to wield the sword and slay the creature. And you just feel that feeling that is, yes, I'm reading a good book. And that is an excellent feeling to have. Also, Moiraine Sedai and her powers are very fun to read about, and I love the character who is the wise character whom you just should trust. Everyone should trust Moiraine, at least in this book. She is doing her best for the characters. And it turns out in this book that she knows more than she's letting on, but the characters should still trust her. And I very much agree with that. And I also think that this series, she's one of the first female versions of this archetype. You typically have someone like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings, Dumbledore in Harry Potter, Alanon in The Sword of Shannara. But this is the first time where it's a woman who's very experienced and aged and knows how to deal with this. And so I love Moiraine in this book. She's one of my favorite characters in the series. I initially, on my first read-through, including this book, did not care about Mat. And I still care about him the least of all of the characters. However, I highly enjoyed him in this book and liked him a lot more than I used to. I also found Nynaeve less aggravating. I felt that her arguments and that her nagging was kind of more justified this reread, and I understood from her point of view. I also, of course, really like reading about Rand and Egwene. They have an interesting dynamic and relationship in this book. And Perrin, gotta love Perrin. He's so sweet. And every time he says, man, I wish Rand was around. He's better at at girls than I am. And I was like, yes, I totally understand that, Perrin. Perrin is such a relatable character. Some of the other interesting points in the book, I did not remember that so many major characters were introduced in this book. Padan Fain, I'd completely forgot was one of the characters in this. I also completely forgot that Elaine Tricond and Gowan and Gawad, what was that? Gowan and Galad? Yeah, however you pronounce them. They're in this book as well. And then also you have characters like Min Farstrider is in this book. And I just totally forgot about Min, who's a great character in this book. And so there were just so many characters that I was getting to reread, and I was like, oh, they're in here. And I was so great. It was so great just to already get to read them. Some other moments that were great was I loved the ending. This is controversial. I've seen YouTubers talk about the ending as a bad thing. I loved the ending. It showed what Rand's power could be. It showed what Moraine's power could be. But it leaves a lot left to be decided. It is not definitive. It provides an end to this book. This book has a cliffhanger, but it's not like a type of a story where it's such a cliffhanger that there's no resolution whatsoever. There's quite a bit of resolution in this book, but it leaves so much open for the rest of the story. And I just loved them exploring, trying to find the Eye of the World. I loved them trying to search and trying to get through the Green Man, which was a great scene. And so the beginning of the book and the end of the book were really strong for me. The beginning of the book, where you have Lews Therin Telamon going crazy and destroying the world and creating Dragonmount. I loved it. There are so many biblical parallels in this book, particularly with that opening chapter. And that opening chapter is what hooked me on the series when I first started reading it. That opening prologue, I was like, yes, that is what I like to see. And then the opening portion of basically Lord of the Rings Light, where they're all in Emond's Field and the Trollocs attack. It's all just a wonderful pared down version of Lord of the Rings, and I love that. I love Sword of Shannara because of the same reasons. I love my Lord of the Rings references and tropes and whatnot. The middle of the book, however, dragged significantly, and I feel like it's made up for in the beginning and the end, but it does drag. I have to knock points off for that. And so as a result, I think that this is not one of the best books in the series necessarily. I think it's probably in the middle. It's still a fantastic book. I gave it really high ratings, but it does lose some points because specifically that middle, I felt like I wanted to skip. and that's never a good sign. There are some, I'm so excited I need to skip to the end to find out what happens, and then there's, this is boring, I need to skip to the end. There's the two types. You want the first type. This was the second type. This is kind of boring. Now, it's worth it because Robert Jordan is doing great character development, but the plot in the middle just kind of drags. But I still think, as I said, the book as a whole is great, especially if you're looking for the whole series. This really is a good lead up. There's so much foreshadowing in this book. I did not remember how much foreshadowing this book had, and I think it is truly worth the read. And so there are other things I wish I could say that are spoilers for the end of the series that I can't get into, but I'll just say this, that this book parallels nicely with the last book in some ways. And I think I'll leave on that note. But I give this book a 9.0 out of 10. High marks. I think if I'm ranking it, it's somewhere number 7, 8, or 9 out of the 15 books. I can't guarantee where specifically on the scale it is, but I think it's somewhere in there. Of course, I highly enjoyed it, and I love some of the other books in the series, and I cannot wait to read the next book, and I'm hoping I can get the next book done in time before the TV show comes out. So, thank you for watching this video. Let me know what you think of Eye of the World. Did you like it? Are you excited for the Amazon series? Comment down below in the comment section. Like the video. Please share the video on your social media and subscribe to my channel for more content. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And until next time, I'm Jonathan, and thank you for watching.